Sometimes I'd have to bring you down to earth too. I know this verse hurts you. I tell you what, I give you advice. I'm feeling nice. Your vices could influence your writing if you weren't biting.
Let us discuss the Dynamite from December 13th, 2023, even though I don't wanna. We're not even going to do news and notes. We're just going to jump right into it because Dynamite didn't give us a lot to talk about, but I'm still going to find some stuff to talk about because there's a lot on my mind when it comes to this tournament. I'm still mad about the tournament, by the way. I'm not happy about the tournament. And I'm certainly not happy about how the tournament is continuing and how it's been booked. But I got a new bug on my keister about this thing now. But we're also going to talk about some other things, so stay tuned. I always got something to say. All right, we're going to start it with Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe starts this whole thing saying that he's looking for answers. He promised that he's going to protect MJF, and last week the devil made him a liar and put his title shot in jeopardy. So he searched high and low for Hangman and found him missing. So Hangman Page came out there and confronted him and said, "Say your accusation to me like the man I thought you were." And then he says he doesn't care about any of this stuff. He doesn't care about the bromance or any of this other crap that they've got going on. And then Samoa Joe says, "You must think I am a detective. Instead, I am an executioner," which is probably the best thing about this whole thing. Roderick Strong came out yelling, "Samoa Joe." And then saying that Hangman Page was his young boy. And that because Hangman Page was his young boy, Hangman Page can be trusted. But then began to break down why the devil must be MJF by saying that everyone that MJF has been attacked so far either wanted to be world champion or had failed MJF in some way, like the Acclaimed. It's very strange because I hadn't heard the Acclaimed's name in forever. I forgot they even existed. And the devil never attacked MJF directly, and we never actually saw the devils attack MJF. And the one time that they did attack him that was visible, Samoa Joe saved him. So Hangman Page, for some odd reason, decided he was going to argue with Roderick Strong about this, and Roderick Strong basically just pulled him away and got in his face, and then they started to fight. So this is the first match on the show, was Roderick Strong versus Hangman Page. But before we get into that, we got to talk about this opening promo segment. All right. Roderick Strong still thinks it's MJF because he hates MJF, and he still thinks that Samoa Joe is his best friend by proxy. I don't even know why. I forgot why that would be. Does it have anything to do with Adam Cole? I don't know, man. I watch this stuff every week, and I still get the smooth brain sometimes dealing with this stuff. But Samoa Joe wasn't seen for the rest of the night after all of this. Hangman Page would go on to defeat Roderick Strong in one of the longest matches I've ever seen in my life. It probably wasn't, literally an hour long or anything like that, but Jesus in heaven, this match felt like it was going on forever. Jesus, it felt like it was going on forever. At the end of the night, the Devils attacked Hangman Page and smashed him on the roof of a car. We still didn't get to see who they were, but it was 4 guys and the Devil. And so Hangman Page ain't him. That's I guess we pretty much figured that part out. Unless it's one of those aces and eights situations where he had to take one for the team in order to prove himself. Look, this Devil thing is, I don't know if it's working out, dog. Some people have stopped caring. I'm trying to hold out hope that it's going to actually still be good, but I don't see any positives that this thing is going to work out. Look, I don't even care that it's... If it was Hangman Page, I still wouldn't have been excited. I just don't see why this matters. I don't know. And it's Roderick Strong. He's got those thick Coke bottle glasses, which is hilarious. But he's a goof. And he's over with that fan base because, he learned something in WWE about being comedic and entertaining. Unfortunately, he brought this to AEW where, they want to put him in 20-minute matches with Hangman Page. 20-minute cold cut, too. Gee Louise. There's just no reason for these guys to go out there and do 20 minutes. There's just no good reason for it. Just none, dog. None. All right. Let's get all this tournament crap out of the way. All right. So Andrade El Idolo, look at me. He defeated Brody King. Now before we move forward, I'm gonna have to stop because there's things that happened, and I must talk about things that happened. So Andrade El Idolo, there was some conversation that he was on the verge of leaving AEW. Turns out that he was just going at CMLL. He's probably going to do 5 or 6 matches in CMLL. So I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. He's just going to be picking up some dates in Mexico. There's also the ever looming Triple H wants to claim his toy, and that Andrade will be running back, which is, I don't know why AEW fans are so scared of Andrade leaving. It's like he's not even an important part of the roster, for Christ's sake. You know? Like, nope, they just started caring about Andrade. Like, they really just started caring about him. Anyway, he had a really good match with Danielson on Collision, which was, I actually took my time to watch that. And Miro apparently is going to beat him up after the tournament is over. So Miro, who probably should have been in the tournament, is not, and it's going to be a cloud to beat up Andrade after the match. So that also made that the show that the Bryan Danielson tweet that was floating around about him bleeding and everything ended up being a work because it was part of his match with Andrade. And Andrade is starting to do a thing where he's basically being underhanded. This week he pulled the covering off of a turnbuckle and smashed Brody King's head into it before hitting his DDT finisher and won the match. And this match was again long as hell. Jesus in heaven, this match was long as hell. Who said I wanted to watch 15 minutes of Brody King? Who told you that? Like, look, it's not even that I dislike him. It's that these tournament matches are cold as ice. There's no build up whatsoever. Look, come on, man. I've said the same thing already. Roosh defeated Jay Lethal because Jay Lethal is a job guy who has 0 points. Jay White defeated Mark Briscoe because Mark Briscoe was a job guy with 0 points. And Jon Moxley defeated Swerve Strickland because Jon Moxley must win and Jon Moxley must pose. Even though it would have made more sense for Swerve to win, do we really need to keep putting Jon Moxley over? I don't know. And also, Moxley kicked out of Swerve's finish. So just in case you thought Moxley was going to kick out of his finish and then ultimately put him over. Nope. Kicked out of his finish and beat him. And then it was also weird because, of course, Swerve's shoulder was up. So that gave him a complaint. They tried to protect him. Just like they tried to protect Roosh last week with him popping up just as the referee stopped the match. They gave Swerve a complaint by his shoulder wasn't fully down. So I'm guessing Swerve is probably going to, I still think he's probably going to end up winning the tournament, either him or Eddie Kingston, but we'll talk about that in a second. So Moxley and Swerve, everybody loved it. The crowd was incredibly excited for it before they even did anything because of, everybody swears that Swerve Strickland has got a rocket strapped to his back and now he's the Rock all of a sudden. I don't know how many times I must see somebody tweet that WWE really fired this guy. It's like Swerve Strickland is an upper mid-carder in AEW, bro. He's not like some, I don't know. It's giving me so much TNA vibes all over again. It's like when like Rhino was champion or something like that. And then they'd be like, I can't believe he's not in WWE. I can't believe they let him go. It's like, it's Mr. Kennedy. He's good. People liked him, but every cut season there's like 5 or 10 of those guys that probably shouldn't have been fired. Swerve is one of those guys. But there's nothing that Swerve has actually done that has broken through and actually gained any traction for AEW. But the fans are extremely excited about Swerve, which is a positive because I liked him from the beginning. I liked him when he was in NXT. I liked him when he was in the Independents. I liked him when he worked in MLW. I'm a fan of Swerve. I just don't want people to get his ego, because his ego is pretty big. I don't want his ego to get so big that he thinks that there's more to this, because then we got to go to the MJF situation where you pushed him, he's doing good, great talent, but the buildings are empty. Merchandise, I don't know. TV ratings, everything's on the skids, and you're like, this guy, I can't believe they let him go. It's like he doesn't matter. He's not mattering. He's literally not mattering. Now, in terms of Jon Moxley, humorous thing happened. So I was doing some rejiggering around on my trying to get the internet to work on my tablet, and I ended up pushing a Evolve show, and I saw a young Jon Moxley on that show. And the crazy thing about Evolve, of course, is that it features almost 100% the same guys that are in Ring of Honor: Danielson, Jimmy Jacobs, Claudio Castagnoli, Chris Hero, all the same guys. And there is Jon Moxley. And I said to myself, if Jon Moxley had not gone to WWE, would he be this all powerful world beater that he is in AEW now? Was like a 3-time world champion, kicking out of everybody's finish? It's like, would they really be booking him like that if he had not spent those, 8 years in WWE? I don't think so. Would he be as over if he hadn't spent all that time in WWE? I don't think so. I haven't seen anything. I still like the guy. I'm not saying that he's terrible, but I'm looking at this thing, and I'm watching closely. And I watched him in the past, and I watched him as Dean Ambrose, and I've watched him now, and I'm saying, he's got some charisma, got a little bit of personality. I like his mic skills or whatever. He can talk when he's motivated, but I just don't see anything that means that he should be booked this way. Like he just can't be beaten by anybody. Like he should have lost this match to Swerve. Sorry, but Swerve, if he's going to be what everybody is saying he should be, he's talking about how he wants to be the champion and all that, he needs to get his politic game together, because there's no reason he should have lost this match to Jon Moxley. All right? Moxley don't need to win this tournament. He don't even need to be in it. If we being honest, Swerve should have won this match. Let's take a back seat. Jay White defeated Mark Briscoe. Jay White is going nowhere fast, so there's no point even talking about that. Mark Briscoe, however, a gigantic goose egg. Now, despite the fact that it's humorous that Mark Briscoe and Jay Lethal both have 0 points. So basically they were the jobbers of the tournament. Same thing with Daniel Garcia over in the blue side. This whole kerfuffle about them boys. Now, I didn't do a video on it because I didn't really understand what the big deal was. I know people jumped out of the woodwork and made a fool of themselves. And I know Mark Briscoe was one of them. I saw the tweet where he apologized. And once he apologized, I kind of dropped it. I was like, all right, well, I guess we can get over it. So apparently what happened was WWE tweeted out a picture of Lashley and the Street Profits and put #DemBoys. Mark Briscoe saw this, flipped out, because Dem Boys is the gimmick of the Briscoe brothers. And he apparently took offense to this, tweeted at Triple H some nonsense, and a bunch of other people jumped out of the woodwork to defend him and offer their sympathies for the death of Jay Briscoe, yada, 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 and felt like WWE was trying to make fun of or disrespect the Briscoe brothers. And then it comes out that, okay, we're around the anniversary of Jay Briscoe's death. I'm not sure if the tweet happened on the very day or it was just, in that time frame. So now people are trying to act like it was somehow a malicious tweet, a malicious Dem Boys tweet. How absolutely ludicrous. How dumb do you have to be to think that whatever 22-year-old intern tweeted that for WWE even knows who the Briscoe brothers are? These people are not that deep into the bubble. All right? They're not that deep into the bubble. It was, besides Dem Boys as a thing, it's like Who Dat. Like Who Dat was one of those things that It became big in the wrestling bubble. I don't know if you guys know too much about this, but the Junkyard Dog, back when he was wrestling in Mid-South Wrestling, the crowd used to chant, "Who dat? Who dat? Say you're going to beat that Junkyard Dog, who dat?" And they would clap and chant, "Who dat?" And then Bill Watts would explain to the audience again, to a bunch of white people, that while all the black folks and all the old grandmas are chanting "Who dat?" at the Junkyard Dog. And it was a pop culture thing that kind of bled into wrestling, that became big in wrestling, that then when you started seeing it in other places, people are like, "Oh yeah, that wrestling thing." It's like, nope. So when they started doing it for the New Orleans Saints, they were like, "Oh, they must have came up with it, or they must have took it from the Junkyard Dog." I'm like, it's already cultural, man. It's already a cultural thing that they do down there. And it just like it bled into the wrestling. It's bleeding into the football. It's the same concept with like them boys, right? It's a thing that they already do that bled into football. Now I got a couple of wrestling guys started doing it, and it bled into wrestling. But it can happen independent of each other. So because these things can happen independent of each other, there's a way for this likely 22-year-old intern that runs WWE social media, had never heard of the Briscoe brothers at all, and was thinking of the Dallas Cowboys, or was thinking of something else when he did that. Okay? So it's not necessarily from the Briscoes. And I know that a bunch of wrestlers made a fool out of themselves, and I enjoy watching wrestlers make a fool out of themselves too. But look, there's only so many hours in a day, and there's only so much time I could dedicate to wrestlers being upset about dumb stuff. And this is bottom tier material. I do not care about this. Nobody really cares about this, and it doesn't really matter. Everybody with their bleeding heart over Jay Briscoe. Look, I like Jay Briscoe too. But if I'd have saw that tweet, that would not have been the first thing I thought. And then I watched Don Tony's podcast, and he says it's not even the first time they've tweeted them boys. WWE has done it before. So again, they're not even thinking about them. It's pop culture stuff that they're utilizing in tweet form. Just like the I am him or I'm him stuff that, is going on with AEW and the devil, and, how that might be encroaching upon Carmelo Hayes. Well, Carmelo Hayes didn't create that. It was pop culture that bled into pro wrestling through Carmelo Hayes using I'm him in his promos and as part of his gimmick. But he didn't create that. That was something he took from the culture and then brought it into wrestling. So people are like, "Oh, what are they doing?" It's like, yeah, I get it, but that was pop culture. Things spread. There's a world bigger than pro wrestling. There's a WWE universe, and then there's like the actual universe. you feel me? Like there's like the actual world. So poor Mark Briscoe makes a fool out of himself online, and then comes up goose egg against Jay White, and then Jay Lethal. Oh, have mercy. How long do he have to wrestle to get a pension? Because he needs to hurry up and get it and get out of here. Roosh has been incredibly agitated too. I've been watching him on social media and everything. He's been very agitated about losing to Jon Moxley. I'm pretty sure he hated that. He was still tweeting about it like 2 days later that he lost to Jon Moxley. He was still mad. He was still mad like a day and a half, 2 days later that he had to do that job. Man, that man hate doing jobs. Jesus Christ. I never seen anything like it before in my life. How can anybody hate doing jobs that much? Very entertaining though. Entertaining guy like Roosh. This tournament, however, and look, I'm not going to focus on the concept of the tournament now. I'm not going to say how much I hate the tournament, which everybody knows I do. I want to ask the question, did they ever consider doing different things to switch this stuff up? For instance, why couldn't Swerve and Moxley be a draw? Like, why couldn't it go to a time limit draw? I mean, you've already taught your audience that these matches are going to go long. This match was like 18 minutes or something like that. maybe 17 minutes, maybe 16 or something to that effect. Maybe it was even 13. Who knows? Maybe I'm exaggerating. But most of these matches have gone at least 15 minutes. Why not go full 20 to make things interesting? You know, you could, hey, there's a draw here, there's a draw there, there's a disqualification here, a disqualification there. You know, these kinds of things to freshen stuff up, to make things interesting. You know, to me, if you're really going to do something that involves points and make these, for starters, there's only 5 matches. So we already know, if you can do basic math, if you lose 2 of the 5 matches, you can pretty much forget it. And quite a few people lost like the first 2 matches they were in. So you can pretty much forget it. If you lose 2 out of 5, you lost nearly half the matches you were in. Chances of you winning, not likely. Okay? So unless everybody lose a match, which it doesn't seem like that was going to happen, you know, it wasn't going to work that way. You know, you could do the math breakdown of how to keep this thing interesting after 3 matches, but usually once somebody has lost twice, the chances of them winning the tournament are minimal down to 0. Okay? So, why not make things interesting? Where instead of guys just flat out losing and getting no points, these guys dragged other people into time limit draws. Maybe they did something where they, you know, they run around in circles, or I don't know, they work hard and they keep putting their foot on the ropes, or, you know, they distract the referee or whatever the hell to prevent pinfalls. And instead, when a guy needs to win, he ends up winning. He ends up getting a draw or something like that. I remember TNA trying to do that. You know, they tried that quite a bit when it comes to what was they doing, the TNA round robin tournament they had, where a guy needed to win by submission and instead he won by pinfall and ended up losing the tournament. That was hilarious. That was hilarious. But that's how you would keep this stuff fresh, you know. I've given them no chance really to win me over. I'm not even gonna hold you up. I've been shitting on this tournament since it was announced, because I don't like round robin tournaments. But I can tell you this: if you were gonna win me over, all the matches being clean finishes, so that everybody gets maximum points, and then other people get no points at all. Okay, so then we could just split this thing down the middle. The main event guys are never going to lose. The mid-card guys are going to lose 2 or 3 matches. And the bottom rung guys are going to lose every match that they're in. Because that's exactly what's happening. You could have made this thing, especially for a guy like Daniel Garcia, where you've already done the gimmick where, you know, he's beaten Bryan Danielson in a match. Okay, well, how about instead of Danielson beating him, he took Danielson to the limit this time. And now it's a 1-1 draw. So now there's got to be something different happening. You know, somebody else has to lose or has to go to a draw or whatever, just to freshen this thing up. And I'm willing to sacrifice that 20 minutes because it's only 20 minutes. You're already doing more than half that. I'm willing to sacrifice that just to keep this thing interesting. Now, I would imagine that's probably what's about to start happening, is they're going to start having surprise draws and stuff like that. But I just, I cannot with this tournament. It's so boring. It makes the show incredibly dry. Like the last part of this show was like a pay-per-view. It was just match after match after match after match after. I was like, oof. Oh, holy hell. And each match was like 10 minutes. Holy hell. Holy hell. Speaking of holy hell, the Von Erichs were there. Kevin Von Erich, oh brother. He's barely audible at this point. Like, I could barely hear anything he was saying with that croak in his voice. Then Orange Cassidy appeared and asked his sons to tag team with him on Rampage, and they agreed. So, hey, I guess they're going to get a tryout because, you know, they're not good enough to be on the same roster as the Iron Savages. If you've ever seen the new Von Erichs or the young Von Erichs, you know that they're better than like the Iron Savages and all these bums. Like, but you get him a Rampage tryout. Okay, sure, go for it. For some odd reason, Danhausen was there too. I don't understand why he exists. Seems kind of goofy to me. Also, let's back up for a little bit for this tournament. Why is the Ring of Honor World Title a part of this tournament? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, shouldn't maybe the international belt have been folded into this continental belt? That would have made more sense to me, right? Like, I just thought about that as I see Orange Cassidy's name. I'm like, wouldn't it have been better for them to like fold that international belt? Like, I know they just renamed it international, right? But nobody really cares about it, and it doesn't really serve that much of a purpose. If it was going to build it up so that it would mean something when you folded it into this Triple Crown, then okay, I would have been all right with that. But now we're just going to add this Continental Triple Crown thing on top of this, and I don't get, what the hierarchy is going to be. But maybe we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I don't know. Seems kind of silly to me. All right, let's get to this absolutely god awful promo segment. This thing was brutal. And this is where I realized that the people who won the war in terms of the Elite and, CM Punk, they don't care. Kenny Omega came out there, literally cut some of the worst promos. He forgot the team name. He stumbled over his words a bunch. He was incredibly low energy. Just all of this was not good. He said he didn't know the words to Judas. It was incredible. It was a masterclass in how to not cut a wrestling promo. And then they started getting into the debate portion, which I know everybody else wants to talk about. So let's skip into this because they called out Ricky Starks and Big Bill. And Ricky Starks ended up thanking Kenny Omega for AEW. And then says that Jericho sucks the life out of everything. And that, Chris Jericho can't be trusted because of, look at what he did with all his previous factions. Kenny Omega, Jericho, I can't trust you. I can't trust you, Chris. Then he said, we want to talk about previous factions. And this was probably the best part. And he was talking about Big Bill being in the firm. And then he was like, it was actually something more like the flaccid. Or, as one could say, you were looking a little soft. And that got a huge pop because everybody remembers, SAWFT, soft. Everybody remembers that. So, and it was a good burn. He was he was a member of the firm, but it was actually kind of soft. I like that. That was probably the best part of any Kenny Omega promo ever. So he then forgot the name of the tag team and said, the Winnipeg Jets will defeat you at World's End. And he says, not the Winnipeg Jets, the Golden Jets. That's us, right? That's our tag team name. It's the Golden Jets. And I was just like, oh my God. So Ricky Starks accepted their tag team championship challenge and then says he beat Jericho twice. So he's already done half the battle. And then they said they're the best tag team with no name. So Jericho says, oh, you keep bragging about not having a name. We're going to give you a name. And so they started muting all the names. So I'm going to assume that Chris Jericho referred to them as the absolute shits, which pop. All right. But then I started calling Jericho and Omega the golden shits. So it's like the golden shits versus the absolute shits. Huge pop. And then Jericho called them the Rick and the Dick, which, of course, also did not get over. And Jericho was out there just bombing with this really bad promo material. So then Ricky Starks cut into Jericho about him dressing like he shops at Hot Topic. So then Chris Jericho called him a less charismatic Enzo Amore. And then Ricky Starks got mad. Oh my goodness, cuz Ricky Starks got so pissy. He got so mad. I don't know why he got so mad. Why did he get so mad? Why did he get so worked up about that? Oh God. He called him a more talented, less charismatic Enzo Amore. Oh my word. So then Ricky starts flying off the handle. Then Then Kenny Omega continued by saying, at least Enzo built up Big Bill a little bit. He didn't just steal all the spotlight like you do. And Ricky starts cut a promo about how great they are and all yada yada yada. It was a brutal segment, dog. It was not good. It wasn't even borderline. There were people on this hellscape that they call the Twitter machine, or X if you're Elon Musk, who were absolutely tortured. You think they were pulling off their fingernails watching this thing? It was literally that bad. It was. I was laughing at Kenny Omega's voice and how terrible he was in the promo, but I was trying to give Ricky Starks some credit because he was doing his best, man. He was trying, dog. He was like, "You can make fun of my dress, you can make fun of how I am." I'm like, "No, Ricky, don't get got." And he did. He got. The Enzo Amore thing took him to the next level. He was not happy about that. He wasn't happy about that one, dog. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry this happened to you, Ricky. Apologize. I apologize for this happened to you, cuz. Oh man, he probably got a calendar in his kitchen. And he just starts crossing off the days till this contract is over with. I know he want to get out of there so bad he don't know what to do. Not only did he stop being featured when CM Punk left, he fell off the face of the goddamn earth. He's somehow feuding with Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega and is not on television. I literally forgot they were the tag team champions because they were never on television. It's brutal. This big build Ricky Starks tag team has been a disaster, bro. Oof. They might be the champions, but they're not like stars. Like AEW does. They know what they're doing. When they put a belt on you and they still don't care about you, you end up on Rampage, forgotten, and all this kind of stuff. Look at how they treated the Lucha Brothers when they won the tag team titles. They basically was just Rampage champions. They wrestled on Rampage every week, and then they popped up on Dynamite to lose the belts, or I think the pay-per-view to lose the belts. That was pretty much it. It's like when you were one of those, like when Athena became the Ring of Honor Women's Champion. Like they used to defend the Ring of Honor Women's title on Dynamite, and then she won the title, and we ain't seen that damn belt since. She been holding the belt hostage for like a year and a half now. Speaking of which, I should have mentioned this earlier. They actually mentioned ROH on AEW TV for the first time in forever. So they actually put over Final Battle. And I laughed at the card because there's some kind of I Quit match on it. And it features Tony Nese. And I'm like, and then they also decided to throw Danielson on the card in a 6-man tag or something like that. Like, this is horse shit. You're not going to sneak into getting people to watch this show to pay for it anyway. They'll probably watch it. They ain't going to pay for it. All right. The last thing here is that Ruby Soho was defeated by Riho. Somebody's got to explain Riho to me. This is my thing on this episode now. Riho. Everybody talks about how small she is, which, we've been talking about that for 3 or 4 years. Here's my thing. What is it about Riho specifically that makes what she does different from all the other Japanese female wrestlers? Now, when you look at certain Japanese female wrestlers like Asuka. Asuka's, heavy into the striking. If you watch her in Japan, she was very heavy on strikes and, making her stuff look realistic and basically working female strong style. When you look at some of the other girls, they're just crazy athletic, or they might be charismatic. Like somebody like Maki Ito. Maki Ito is entertaining, She might not be a great wrestler, but she's entertaining. Riho can do everything in terms of being in the ring. Her shit doesn't look believable because she's built like olive oil from Popeye. So her stuff does not look believable, but she can do the moves. But as she was working this match with Ruby Soho, I just kept saying, like, why her? Of all the girls that wrestle in Japan, why this one? She's not particularly charismatic. Her moves don't look that great. She doesn't have an over-the-top personality. She's not even cute. She's just kind of an average-looking girl. What about her specifically puts her in this position? I don't have an answer to that question. And I'm sitting here trying to figure it out. And then I realize, like, it's not my job to try to figure it out. AEW's job is to sell Riho on to me. And they have 4 years to do it and they can't do it. It's just kind of like, she's a good Japanese female wrestler. Like, yeah, there's 100 of them. Pick somebody else. Somebody who's might got some size to them. Somebody who might have some charisma. Somebody who might have some personality. Who might be able to talk. You know? Or even, if nothing else, she's beautiful. She winks at you and smiles, and you're like, oh, I like her. You know, at the very least, something. You know? Maki Ito comes out there with her stupid song and dance. And it's dumb as hell. But at the very least, she's trying to be entertaining. You know? And I can at least give her credit for that. Riho? Like, what the fuck? Why does she exist? Why Riho at all ever? I don't know. And her beating Ruby Soho, who cares? She's going to be wrestling Toni Storm. Who gives a fuck? Who cares? Before we wrap it up, let's talk about this Chris Jericho comment because it was absolutely entertaining. Jericho, I guess, what is this? On AEW having an identity crisis. Very interesting stuff here. He says, quote, people's opinions are opinions, especially on social media, when everybody is going to say what they think with no consequences and mostly negativity. I think our shows have been great. The matches have been great. And we've done a great job of balancing the storylines along with these amazing matches. The most important thing we've been doing is building stars. If you listen to public opinion online, I should be shot and killed. Never show my face on wrestling again because I'm the worst possible thing that could ever happen to the business. Me still being in existence. Either you believe that or you don't. And I don't. I don't think the majority of people do either. But people are still going to say that. It's your opinion. Look, Chris, there's a lot of people with a lot of opinions. And if you collect a lot of those opinions, you get a pretty good, solid idea of how the show is going. And if you collect all the opinions of the people who are not watching this show, I think, look, disregard the opinions of the people who actually watch the show. How about the opinions of people who are not watching the show? How about that? You don't want to listen to me because I watch the show anyway? Okay, fine. But let's talk about all the people who have stopped watching Dynamite. Maybe ask me why I stopped watching Collision. Because I watch Collision like I watch Impact, which is when I got time. Which is probably going to be like in the middle of the day the next day. You know? Where I probably should be in church or something. Which I probably would rather do than watch Collision. It's a better way to spend your 2 hours. At least you'll see some chicks. Here's the thing. He claimed that they're building stars. And I want to know where these stars at. Like, I'm looking for the stars. Where they at, though? We talked earlier about Swerve Strickland, who I'm guessing maybe is one of the guys he's talking about. Maybe he's still talking about MJF. Okay, but MJF's been a star for a little while now. Just about everybody else on this show is either a 40-year-old Ring of Honor washout or there's somebody who is not on TV nearly enough to be considered a star. They're not in a prominent enough position to be considered a star. Or if you did start pushing them, you started shelving them, and then they're not a star. Give you a good example of one of many. The Acclaimed. All right, young guys. Maybe you want to say, hey, we try to push the Acclaimed, make them stars. Okay, they ain't been on TV in a month. Orange Cassidy. They used to put him on TV every single week. He ain't been on TV in a month. Now, since this tournament started, he been on Rampage, hiding. Ricky Starks. He was being positioned as being one of the top heels on Collision. He's a tag team champion currently, and this is the most TV time he's gotten since he won the title. He's not been put in any feuds where he can show off what he can do or nothing like that. Look, I'm not going to say that Jericho is at fault here. I don't blame Jericho for what's happening here. He's not booking the shows. He's not hiring the talent. He is just one of the talent. He probably have a little bit of stroke about what he does, and wanting to focus a little bit more on his own work. But when you look at AEW, I'm not seeing amazing storylines. I'm barely seeing great matches. I'm seeing technically proficient matches that you probably would, have on TV while you're vacuuming. Nothing that you feel like you absolutely need to sit down and watch. You could be ironing your pants while watching Dynamite. It's not edge of your seat stuff. Nothing's going to happen on this show that's going to make you super excited, jump out of your... Like, it's really crazy because now I'm at the point where I'm like, man, Dynamite was probably better 3 years ago. Back when the show was objectively stupid, at least there was stuff going on. At least something was happening, and the show was objectively dumb. Now, it's seemingly nothing happens on these shows. Week to week, nothing happens. It's the same damn nonsense I have with WWE, especially when it comes to Raw. This sucks. I get it. Maybe you watched Raw. I mean, you watched like Wrestling Challenge or something like that as a kid, and those would just be match after match with the occasional angle. But for me, as a guy who says, okay, I want to see wrestling sort of move forward. All right, so match after match after match might have been fun when I was a kid because that's what I was more interested in was the in-ring stuff. But now you see so many matches that matches are boring. Sometimes you want to see a little bit more. You want to see something else, and you want to see some angles. You want to hear some promos. You want to see some personality. You want to, there's got to be more to this than just, I'm going to book 2 hours of matches. Oh, that sounds like a pain in the ass. That truly sounds like torture to me. I mean, if it's not WrestleMania or a big time pay-per-view where these matches matter, or at least they have some level of importance, I just don't need to see 15, 20-minute matches, like a bunch of 15, 20-minute matches. It's just not necessary. All right? It's just not necessary. All right, here's the main event. Here's what we're going to close on. WrestleNomics are projecting AEW to lose $34 million in 2023. I know this is what you guys really want to talk about. I'm going to only save it for people who actually listen to the whole show. So it might not even be in the synopsis for the show. All right, so I'm reading this from Cultaholic because I'm lazy and I don't care to, and I'm certainly not going to give WrestleNomics any money. So it says, estimates from Brandon Thurston have suggested All Elite Wrestling will lose $34 million in 2023. It has been estimated, underline the word estimated, that AEW will generate approximately $154 million in net revenue this year, up from $100 million in 2022. The United States media rights deal with Warner Brothers Discovery will bring in a bulk of AEW's revenue, estimated to be around $68 million per year, with the current deal believed to expire at the end of 2024. AEW brings in additional revenue from international TV deals with the likes of ITV in the United Kingdom and Eurosport in India, which generate a further $7.8 million. Let's see. Where's the rest of this? In total, WrestleNomics have estimated AEW will bring in $98 million for 2023, which includes an additional $19.4 million from pay-per-view buys. Another $34 million, meanwhile, will be generated from just over 500,000 ticket sales by the end of the year, along with further $22 million in revenue from consumer products. So consumer products are various items like action figures, cards, etc. The increased revenue is still lower than AEW's expenses, however, and talent compensation is estimated to cost AEW around $85 million per year. Media and event operating expenses add another $66 million to the outgoings, while consumer products licensing expenses and general expenses bring AEW's estimated outlay to just over $188 million. Now, before we go even further with this, where are they getting these figures from? I really need to know, Because in order to be able to break this down to this degree, you would have to have some pretty accurate figures, right? How do we know how much they made on pay-per-view buys when Tony Khan doesn't even give you a full number? He gives you an estimation. And then why are we taking his numbers at face value? We don't know what the actual numbers are. We don't have that much information in total in general. We just don't know. You know, it doesn't matter what their revenues are. We don't know, have a full accounting of their expenses. We don't know if they're paying for all of their talent. There's talks of, Warner Brothers helping them, just like back in the old days with TNA, where TNA, had certain talents that was being paid by Spike TV, just like in WCW. Occasionally, WCW, they would have certain guys that was being paid by Turner Broadcasting that weren't under WCW contracts. We don't know if certain guys had those kinds of deals. We don't know. Again, that's the thing about these estimates. But in order to speak with such precision, like they're going to lose $34 million, or we're going to estimate they're going to lose $34 million, you have to have some kind of hard figure. I don't think we have enough hard figures in general to say that they're going to lose $34 million. And I'm not saying they could possibly be losing more, even though I think that it's probably likely that it's around that. How do we know that they pay 80 some odd million in talent costs? How do we know that? We don't know the salary of any individual wrestler, right? So we can't know the salary of a group of wrestlers. We can guess, but that's an estimate is based off something. A guess is just, I would imagine you're paying Edge like $4 million. That's a guess. An estimate would be, okay, Edge was making $3 million in WWE. Maybe he went to AEW for a certain percentage and increase, and we could estimate that he probably makes this because it's based off of what we know, which means what he was being paid by WWE and the potential increase. That's an estimate. What is the hard figure that you have that we're estimating from? If you're taking the pay-per-view buys, which is the one I really kind of is like, okay, what's going on here? It's because that's the only real number that they put out there. And it's usually, it's 120 to 140,000 buys, which is usually what they say. At $50 a pop, still, they're splitting some of that money with Warner Brothers Discovery because they got to split some of it with like Bleacher Report, right? And they might be splitting some money with Fight. We don't know. We don't know the nature of their deals, the nature of these contracts. It could not be going as well as they think it is. They don't even know how much money they get from Warner Brothers Discovery per year. They don't even know that. That we have no information. But since we have this, we got the Brandon Thurston estimates. Let's talk about it as if it is true. Let's do the counterfactual thing. If it's true that AEW is going to lose $34 million this year, and this featured their highest grossing event of all time, which being the Wembley show, then you would have to imagine they lost money every year before this year. You would have to imagine it, right? Because they've been paying on the video game, and this is the first year the video game actually came out. So last year, the video game was nothing but sunk costs, which means they were paying into the game and they got nothing out of it because they weren't selling the game yet. So whatever money they put into it last year was just a loss. And the year before that, same thing, just a loss. This was the first year that they actually got to sell the video game. And they said they sunk 8 figures into it, I think they said. That's $10 million, somewhere in that neighborhood. Okay, so they put like a $10 million investment in the video game. They probably haven't made that back. And then that's over the course of several years, at least 3. And the game just now coming out. So those sunk costs for 3 years. The likelihood that they made a profit, if they didn't make a profit this year with Wembley, They likely didn't make a profit last year either. Likely didn't make a profit the year before that. Because even if they were doing better business. Now, hold on, let me stop for 1 second. Because they likely did not make a profit in 2020 because of COVID. So that goes without saying. But the guy's a billionaire. He's going to take the L if he has to. Same thing about this $34 million thing. If it loses $34 million, he's a billionaire. He's probably not going to care too much. It's a passion project at this point. But the likelihood that they made a profit last year, not likely. Even though they were hot last year and they were selling a bunch of tickets, and I do believe their pay-per-view probably did go up. And I definitely think CM Punk benefited them in terms of business. So I do believe that they probably had a nice little uptick, but they were running fewer events at the time. And I don't know if they were getting a cut of CM Punk's merchandise. I don't know how that works. He had AEW merchandise, but he had mostly Pro Wrestling Tees merchandise, and I think Pro Wrestling Tees is where guys just sell their own gimmicks. And essentially, these guys make all the money off of that. Now, is it possible that AEW probably got a cut? Maybe a small cut? Maybe. But again, without knowing the nature of these contracts, we don't know. But I would imagine if they had the video game came out and Wembley happened, then and they still didn't make a profit this year, they likely didn't make one last year either. And when you think about the way Tony Khan has been pretty lavish in terms of him talking about how much he paid to use the Final Countdown for Bryan Danielson. I think, what was it, earlier this year that he used 50 Cent for the Gun Boys. He's using licensed music for the Gun Club. Look, I like the Guns, but why put them in a position to cost you money? That doesn't make any sense. They also spent a ton of money on contracts, signing guys like Will Ospreay, and who had to no doubt be a pricey acquisition, and Edge, another pricey acquisition. They probably saved some money by cutting CM Punk, but we don't know if they had to buy him out of his contract. We don't know how that worked out. There's a undisputed fact about local government. Local government, when times are hard and they're at a shortfall when it comes to taxes, and they can't pay enough. They can't make enough money to pay the unions or whatever. The first thing they do is they start raising the costs. So they start raising fines, littering fines, parking infractions, civil infractions. They start really going hard on it. What used to be a $100 fine is now $150. Now $200. So when you look at it from that perspective, and you see that AEW is now starting to find talent, you say to yourself, is this now their opportunity or their attempt at making some of that money back? That they're going to start finding talent, even if it's small sums of money, $100 here, $100 there, in order to make back some of the money that they're spending on these shows. I know that's evil. It's an evil thought to have, is that they're finding talent in order to, put some money back in the coffers. But that's how government works, and I would imagine that these companies aren't that much different. They use disciplinary things in order to save money. And I can see that if that's going to be the case, they have this disciplinary committee now. They're going to go around finding guys, not just because the guys are assholes, which they are, but because if they could save a couple of bucks by just finding a guy $500 for being late, $250 for some stupid shit he tweeted, that's some money you can save, Hey, I'm so sorry that some people are not thinking about this, and they're gonna be like, that's not right. But don't be surprised if that might be the case. I mean, your government does it. Your mayors and shit are doing it. Your city council does it. Why wouldn't Tony Khan do it? It's a smart way to handle it because the wrestlers themselves are going to be the cost of the issue. They lack of decorum is going to be the reason why they get fined. It's not going to be anything that the company did. They just set rules, and then you decided to go and break them. Like there's plenty of wrestlers who are complaining about pushes and different things like that on social media. Santana was one of them. He was complaining about his push and everything, and then he deleted the tweets. So you already know. And then when he got mentioned that, Danielson is watching, Big Brother is watching, he started tweeting, I don't give a fuck about that. Nobody what they gonna do to me, man? Yeah, same thing with Maria Kanellis. She tweeted out some weird shit, and then she went back and deleted it. It's like there's a lot of tweet deletes going on in AEW, and nobody cares about fines, according to them. I ain't scared of no fine. I'm gonna delete this tweet though. I'm gonna go ahead and delete it, but I ain't scared of no fine. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not just Tony Khan trying to recoup something. You know, I don't want to, despite the fact that everybody's talking about WWE going over to Warner Brothers Discovery and what is that going to do to AEW? Look, I don't want AEW to go out of business. I want it to be better. People criticize WWE from the rooter to the tutor, from every waking moment, everything that ever happens on Raw, everything that ever happens on SmackDown or NXT or from the book. There's people arguing right now about whether the writers should get credits at the end of the show or not, which is a Vince Russo argument from like 25 years ago. Like that's really what it is. That's what they're doing now. But if you criticize AEW, you want them to go out of business. It's like I don't care whether AEW goes out of business or not. But no, for the record, I don't want AEW to go out of business. I want it to be a better wrestling program. And what they're doing is they're putting together a shitty ass program. And I don't care what it takes for them to fix this. If I have to yell into this microphone every week for the next 2 more years or whatever to get AEW into being a decent wrestling program, then great. If they go out of business because of poor business practices or through stuff that's beyond their control, too damn bad. I've seen many wrestling companies come and go. They wouldn't be the first ones to have to downsize, have to start cutting some of their talent, have to start paying guys less, or whatever the case may be. They wouldn't be the first ones. But I don't want that. What I'm trying to say is these are practical things that you can do that would make your company better. And it's not necessarily be more like WWE. It's about, hey, be more like traditional pro wrestling, which is interesting characters that are badasses that do cool shit. Some of them spit mist. Some of them are just weirdos, like the Missing Link, who got like a face paint and he got like a weird haircut. And his gimmick is that he rams his head into people's chests and stuff. Or he gives people weird headbutts. Not pissy millennial cowboys or whatever the fuck. You can do the right thing without being WWE. But the idea that you can't criticize AEW because you want them to go out of business, like fuck you. Nobody says they want AEW to go out of business. You want AEW to be profitable. You want it to be better. The market can last with more than one wrestling company. But you have to be a viable wrestling company. You can't have people drinking blood on your show. Why have pretty girls on your show who don't do anything? Why not market your product better? Why focus on 50-year-old or 45-year-old people who watched Ring of Honor in 2002? Why is that your target market? Why is those people? Why is your roster all of the same people who are on Ring of Honor and Evolve? Fuck, are you serious? When TNA started, it was all new guys. It was occasionally you saw some WCW guys here and there, but it was mostly new guys. AEW used to be mostly new talent. You look at AEW now, it's like somebody jumped into a time machine of some PWG show and they fast forwarded to the future. It's nonsense, bro. Like, There's a lot of gray beards in AEW now. It wasn't like that 3 years ago. It became that way. That was a choice. It was a decision to bring in all these gray beards. You can undo that decision. You can modify the decision. You can have your Edge and your Christian and your Danielson and all these guys, but continue bringing in Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs and still utilizing those guys. It's a choice for you to give Moxley 15, 20 minutes of wrestling time every week. That's a choice. I'm
Tell
saying
me what's
make
worse
better
than learning all that you led to believe
If
was
you end up
all
going out of
correct.
business because
They
you want to do
distort
things your way, fine. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and cry about it either. That just means I get to sleep more on a Wednesday night. Shit. Fuck this stupid ass show. I don't care about this show that much. It's a wrestling show. You know, but you can fix it. You could do better than this, I would imagine. All right. I really got off topic. I'll talk to you guys later.